Part 44. Infinite Doomsday Start Draws Luodu Mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 431. Under this nourishment, the power of the shadow of Belial also expanded rapidly, and finally caught up with the speed of Sarah, the goddess of joy on the opposite side. Google search reading. The two cicadas on both sides of the poisonous Andariel, the power was balanced again. However, this was not enough for Belial. To fight against each other is to lose, and not to take advantage is to lose. This is the motto of the cunning demon. But, even his last few subordinates were betrayed by himself. What else can Belial do? Thinking of this, Belial looked around. He suddenly found that there was a familiar figure in a corner of the battlefield. But that familiar figure looked at him with a look that was very unfamiliar to him. There was astonishment, fear, reverence, and flattery in those eyes. But, there was no such thing as now hate. That person was his first and highest dependent in this plane, his champion warrior, and the one chosen by him. Austin. He dodged Belial's backstab soul harvest, and had the foresight to hide. Well, none of these shocked Belial as much as another thing. That is, what Austin stared at with hatred was not the physical body of Iron Man Capricorn, but the shadow of the demon god hanging in the air, Belial. Is there any problem with this? Could it be that not everyone can see the shadow of the demon god? Well, not really. Sarashia can see it, that's for sure. Capricorn can see it too, the same. Ruger can see it too, otherwise his magic shrapnel would not have hit Belial's shadow of the demon god directly. And Belial was not surprised at all that he could see himself. But most of the others, in fact, could not see it. The only exception was Gialia. But considering her identity as an ancient Nephilim, and a second-generation Nephilim, it seemed as natural for her to see the shadow of the demon god as it was for Tia, Sarah, and Capricorn to see it. It was more reasonable than Ruger's seeing it. In this case, when Belial found out that Austin could see him, he was naturally quite surprised. What? Austin is not Belial's follower, not his champion god choice. How can he not see his master? Well, whether he can see or not is up to Belial himself. Since he was surprised, it means that he did not actually give Austin this ability. Can you see me? It was Belial who said this, but it was not Belial. It was Belial's demon god phantom that was speaking in their unique way, but not Capricorn controlled by Belial using his vocal cords. Austin did not react at all, still staring at Capricorn's back and above with that hateful look. Seeing him like this, Belial was also a little surprised. He thought, could it be that Austin actually couldn't see the demon god phantom at all? He just had poor eyesight, and when he stared at Capricorn, there was a problem with his vision? This is not impossible. But, Belial is a cunning demon god after all, so he will not relax his vigilance against Austin because of this. On the contrary, he raised his sickle arm, swung it in the air, and then sent a magic flame attack to Austin. Swish. Boom. Before the green magic flame hit Austin, it was cut in half by the holy sword energy of that guy, and exploded into a cloud of dust. Humph, I knew it. Beli snorted coldly, and his forearms immediately launched a full-scale attack on Austin. Seeing that the last two people in the cult were fighting each other, Ruger was stunned at the same time, but he had no intention of taking advantage of the opportunity to attack. On the one hand, he was busy powering Sarah with Tia. On the other hand, he didn't believe that the two people over there were really fighting. After all, the civil war between the cunning demon god and his followers, whether it looked or sounded, was like acting. In comparison, seeing that her serious comrades Cormac and Lyndon were killed so casually, the Scorpio witch Irina, who returned to the ground with Isandra and others, had a fleeting sadness on her face, which was much more sincere. As the battle on the fourth floor of the catacombs gradually became mythical, After Ruger's repeated persuasion, the other 5 people, except for his family of 3, finally returned to the ground with the help of the big dog helicopter ladder after everyone on the cult died. Li Min pulled Anya, who was still paying close attention to the movements below, back to the cockpit, and Isandra approached Irina, who was mourning her former comrades, and chatted with her casually. A former elemental mage, with a witch who was a mystic mage from the mage tribe 1,500 years ago, there was too much to talk about. Wang jumped onto the rear cabin of the helicopter without hesitation and encouraged Li Min to take her back to the rear to get reinforcements for Sarah. Not to go to the rogue military camp near the gate of the Tamo Highland Monastery to get rogue reinforcements. Go directly back to the vicinity of Rogue Town to get the Ghost Army back for support. To be honest, Li Min and the other 4 air sign Iron Man had no sense of belonging to the Ghost, nor any good feelings towards them, because they were freed from the control of the Radom bug very early. However, since Sarah took over as the Pope of the Ghost, she did not cause them trouble from time to time like the previous E-52, so they did not have any special bad feelings towards Sarah. So even if they knew Sarah's identity from Wang before, they still worked hard when helping in the battle. However, helping to report the fight is one thing, and helping to go back and get the Ghost Army as reinforcements is another. Let's not talk about whether those ghosts are qualified to participate in the fairy war after they come here, just say that ghosts encounter the rogue troops. What should we do? So, after hearing the idea of Shepard to call for help, although Li Min took her to the sky, she was not in a hurry to fly west, but cooperated with Anya to persuade the Shepard. However, how much use is this kind of persuasion for a straightforward person like Ares? Only God knows. Unlike the other 4 people who have their own concerns, the little lowly Gialia received a lot of praises such as "Wow, so cute," as soon as she returned to the ground. Rogues are warriors but also women. How can they resist the impact of the little lowly? Besides, this kind of cute little lowly can kill both men and women. Fortunately, her 2 teammates before, the barbarian Xiongda Xiong Er, have returned to the rogue military camp obediently under the pressure of their master, the witch Irina. Otherwise, the 2 naughty kids would not know what would happen if they saw their brother, who was in his 20s, turned into a little girl who looked only 5 or 6 years old. Well, it shouldn't be a big deal. After all, Irina also returned to the ground. Even so, the little girl was left with nowhere to hide by those unworldly rogues. Although her fighting power was not low, they were all well-intentioned, and she couldn't hurt them violently. Finally, she looked around and finally found a good place that was not only pleasing to her eyes, but also suitable for her to hide. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu Mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi Ji. Chapter 432. Jalea looked around and finally found a place that was not only pleasing to her eyes but also a good place for her to hide. A mini tank that was cute. That was the fire control specialized weasel tank that Ruger had left on the ground as a vehicle for the main control computer of the 1288mm rapid-fire mortar howitzers that supported the firepower. This was the firepower support that Ruger left on the ground when he was about to descend into the underground passage created by the poisonous Andariel. In the end, it was never used. But because all the bombs that Ruger had buried in the underground passage network were reported, this set of firepower support system did not dare to stay in place, and was driven to the vicinity of the original cathedral by the shadow links that controlled the main control computer. As a result, the little guy took a fancy to it at first sight, and quickly got into the rear compartment where the main control computer was located. Then, Dia, no, it's Big Cat. You were, how come you are here? Gialia was a little sly, and she took several turns in her words before she could hide her true feelings. What the hell? You can see me, the old chatterbox, who hadn't had a role in a long time, was even more surprised. As soon as he finished speaking, he stretched out his nose and sniffed at the little lowly version of Gialia, and then the old chatterbox suddenly realized, it turned out to be you, the little girl who knows necromancer. You can really see me. I pretended to be like that at the beginning. Huh? How did you become so small? He, if you do me a favor, I will help you solve the problem. The little loli rubbed her hands, revealing a perverted look that was definitely not what she looked like at her age, and slowly approached the old chatterbox with an excited face. You, what are you doing? No, don't. You, stop, don't get any closer. Come closer, I'll scream. Scream. He, scream. No matter how loud you scream, no one will hear you. The little loli looked even more like a pervert. Seeing that she not only didn't stop, but got closer and closer, her perverted face was almost sticking to the screen of the main control computer, Lao Guozhao dared not stay, and immediately screamed and jumped out from the other side of the computer. Lao master, there is that person. Help, there is a pervert bullying me. Crying and shouting, Lao Guozhao plunged into the underground tomb and went straight to Tia. On the other side, seeing Lao Guozhao leave, the little loli who had just looked like a pervert immediately recovered. She shook twice on the gunner's seat of the small tank, found a comfortable posture and lay down. The little feet were lifted directly onto the main control computer in front of her, swinging leisurely, while muttering, "This should be enough, right? I have done what I should do. Whether it is good or bad, it still depends on you in the end." On the other side, the underground tomb battlefield. Under the shameless energy supply of Ruger and Tia, the phantom of the god of joy behind Sarah was running at full speed, like a famous brand, GG seat, for rent, high power range hood, wantonly absorbing the source of pain demon left in the poisonous Andariel. On the other hand, Belial, who had been competing with Sarah for the source of pain, was now putting most of his energy into following the paladin Captain Austin, who was jumping up and down to avoid his soul harvest, and his speed was obviously much slower. As a result, Belial naturally became more and more impatient. You guy, why don't you just offer your soul up?" Belial launched another soul harvesting sickle, but it missed again without any surprise. He shouted at Austin indignantly. "Didn't you swear to be loyal to me forever, even at the cost of your life? I don't want your liver or your brain now, I just want your soul. Why are you hiding? What else do you have to hide? Have you forgotten how pathetic you were? I have been weak and bullied since childhood, and you can't even beat a child in your teens. You have awakened the bloodline of the Nephilim, but you are treated as a waste and thrown to those lowly soldiers for training. Why? Because everyone thinks that even if you train hard, you will eventually be just an ordinary soldier. You are only qualified to master the most basic auxiliary aura, and that auxiliary aura can only cover a few people, not to mention that the improvement effect is better than nothing. You said you successfully awakened to become a Nephilim. In fact, he can't even beat an ordinary rogue. You are a pathetic creature, even your parents are ashamed of you. When you were about to end your pathetic life, who gave you strength and hope? It was me. Your eternal master, the supreme god, Lord Belial. Now, your master, your god, is going to collect the reward for helping you. Have you forgotten what you promised at the beginning? You ungrateful thing, I finally know why you suffered those in the first half of your life. You deserve it. You are a slug who can't afford to pay. You deserve to rot in the dirtiest quagmire in hell and never turn over. Now, I'll give you one last chance. Contribute the soul you promised to Lord Belial. Otherwise, you will wait to be a pathetic mud slug forever. Quick!" As he said that, the scythe arm of demon god Belial's phantom swept across again. "No," Austin avoided the sickle and said resolutely. "Lord Belial, have you forgotten? This is a transaction between us that should be fair and reasonable. You help me achieve my wish, and I will offer my soul to you." "That's right. But Lord Belial, you haven't helped me achieve my wish yet. How could you collect my soul in advance?" This is not our original deal. We can swear this on your God's name. If you violate the deal, your demonic origin will also suffer irreversible damage. Belial also didn't expect that a mere mortal relative, an ant-like existence, would dare to negotiate a deal with him in front of his enemy. For existences such as other gods or demons, swearing by one's own name, the name of God, will cause irreversible damage, as Austin said. But for the lying and cunning demon god, breaking the oath is still a way to practice the demon god's origin. In other words, if other gods break the contract, you will be hurt, but if Belial breaks the contract, you will benefit in the end. This is also the ability he showed when he tricked Callia's physical father and his family to death. So in the final analysis, he had no intention of fulfilling the deal he made with Austin, and he was just playing tricks on that guy. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai-Chi-Ji. Chapter 433. Belair signed a contract with Austin. He was just playing a trick on that guy and didn't intend to fulfill it. But now things are a little different. This difference comes from a small detail in the process. That is, Belair's breach of contract does not directly improve his strength. In fact, if he breaches the contract, he will suffer the penalty of breach of contract and his soul will be damaged, just like other gods. Later, when he gains benefits by breaching the contract, that is, when he gets what he wants by lying or being cunning, his demon god origin gain will be settled. So in fact, his strength will have a process of first decreasing and then increasing. Although this process is very short, for Belair, who has an eternal life, it is just a snap of a finger. But that was when he was doing nothing in the burning hell. Now, he is on the battlefield. The enemy opposite him is one of the 7 demon gods of hell at the same level as him. In this case, even a short-term damage to the demon god origin may lead to very serious consequences. He dare not gamble. So, he could only swallow his anger temporarily and continue to use words to guide and deceive the annoying guy on the other side. What are you talking about? Our deal? Let's not talk about the fact that we are just helping each other. Even if there is a deal, you want me to help you achieve your wish, didn't I help you achieve it? You said that you want power, authority, and dignity. You want all those who look down on you to bow down at your feet. You want the entire rogue town to be under your control. Is that so? Then, didn't you get everything you wanted? You want power? You were once the strongest Nephilim in Rogue Town, no doubt about it. Nonsense, Austin couldn't stand it anymore and immediately retorted. If I was the strongest in Rogue Town, how could I be defeated by those guys one after another? He pointed at Sarah, pointed at Tia, and finally pointed at Ruger. Even killed by that guy once. If you can't figure it out before, it's understandable, but you still can't figure it out now. Belial smiled sinisterly. You are the strongest Nephilim in Rogue Town, but you are only the strongest Nephilim. When did I promise you that I would make you the strongest in Rogue Town? If you are the strongest, wouldn't you be stronger than me? How is that possible? Look at those 3 people now, who is a Nephilim, or just a Nephilim? You can't beat them, but that doesn't mean I didn't fulfill my promise. What? Austin was obviously hit hard by Belial's words, and his expression was a little dazed for a while. On the other hand, Belial's strength increased a little after he finished speaking, and it felt like the origin of lies and cunning was enhanced after being practiced. So, offer your soul. Another sweep and harvest. Never. Austin directly raised his shield and took it hard this time. Even if we don't care about power, what about other things? Other things, Belial sneered. Power? You once became the de facto supreme leader of the entire Rogue Town. Even the nominal leader, the blind nun Akara, obeyed your orders. Isn't this enough? Women. Black Widow Natasha can not only change into 1,000 different forms and have infinite appearances, but also change her body shape accordingly. Her body is soft and tough, and she is familiar with countless postures. With her, you have all the women in the world. Don't tell me what you are dissatisfied with. I saw that you enjoyed it when you were cultivating with her. You bastard, didn't you kill Natasha casually? Austin was even more angry when Belial mentioned the Black Widow Spider-Woman. What God gave you, God also has the right to take away at any time. This is your God's right, Belial said coldly, word by word. Besides, you still want to enjoy such a good woman for the rest of your life. For your health and your fighting power, I took her back, and you should be grateful to me. After a pause, Belial said. Power, wealth, authority, women, everything you want, I have given you. You have also tasted the taste of mastering them. My part of our deal has been completed. You should also complete your part. Belial, who continued to absorb the essence of the poisonous Demon King, was 3 points more powerful than before. Even if he did not make a move, he had already forced Austin into a corner with his coercion, making him breathless, let alone continue to escape. But Austin on the other side still refused to give up. No. Not yet. After holding his breath, he shouted again. There is one more important thing about the deal, you never gave it to me. Dignity. Everything I want is for dignity. But, not only have you always treated me as a tool, but you also secretly regarded me as bait. You even watched me being humiliated and even killed by that guy. You never gave me dignity. Dignity? Haha, what a joke, Belial sneered. Have you ever heard of dignity given by others in this world? Dignity is something that you have always fought for yourself. How can you beg for it from others? Can dignity be gained by kneeling down to others? This thing has never existed since the beginning. Belair's last words were like sentencing Austin to death. The paladin leader, under the pressure of the demon god, almost took his last breath. At this point, Belial was not in a hurry to harvest this last soul. At least, as he told his lies and conspiracies bit by bit, while attacking Austin's mind, his Demon King origin was instantly strengthened in the agitation again and again. Perhaps this kind of strengthening is essentially just something like stimulants, only a short-term effect. But relying on this short-term effect, the pain Demon King origin he absorbed from Duan is a real long-term gain. In other words, he doesn't even need Austin's soul now, and has already increased the speed of absorbing the pain Demon King origin back to the level that can compete with Sarah. Once he takes back Austin's soul, he will probably get another burst of power. It can immediately suppress Sarah, who has only reached her current level with the combined strength of 3 people. This also explains, from a certain perspective, why there is no second Sarah Andariel among the 7 demon kings of hell who would try to transform into a demon god and turn a demon into a god. The origin of divine power is not as fast as the demon king's origin. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi. Chapter 434. Although, even if these demon kings enter the broken shelter world, it is difficult for them to exert their super strength in the burning hell. Google search reading. But even so, like Belial, 1/3 of his soul is attached to the human body, and the shadow of the demon god appears, but he can't do anything to his former follower. This kind of thing is still a minority. Or rather, it shouldn't happen at all. This is not normal. Belial knew that this was not normal. But he didn't show it. In his opinion, this was probably a method arranged by Sarah and others in advance. After all, a thief looks like a thief to everyone. A liar also looks like a liar to everyone. He even gradually thought that Austin, the former follower who caused him a lot of trouble, had turned to Sarah Andariel at some point. So, he suddenly attacked at this time. So, after he secretly took back the power he had given him before, his strength was not affected much. It was even slightly stronger. To be honest, when Belial found that things were going too far out of his control, he gradually began to think about retreating. If it weren't for the big fat piece of meat, the origin of the poisonous Andariel Demon King, which was placed in front of him so nakedly and closely, Belial, who was good at running and hiding, would have taken it long ago. Now, he just wanted to take a chance. Before things became absolutely dangerous, he wanted to get a little more benefit. Yes, for this opportunity today, he had been lurking in this area for a long time. Including the strengthening of Austin, the capital put on the table was not a small amount. But, that was based on human judgment standards. If it was based on the standards of the Demon King and the Demon God, the power he allocated was more than a drop in the bucket, and the time he invested was only a blink of an eye. I was bored and found a card game, so I sat down and played 2 cards. If I found that I was going to lose, I could stop betting and leave early. Well, in a Texas Hold'em game, if I felt that I was going to lose, I could fold and surrender at any time. It would save me from being ridiculed by the winner in person if I really lost. Even to see the bottom card, he paid more. Belial had planned this way, but things would not necessarily go according to his thinking just because he was a cunning demon. Lies and cunning are not destiny. Haha, dignity, from the beginning, you can't rely on others' charity, you shouldn't beg for others, Austin sneered with indignation, helplessness, and a hint of determination. Then, doesn't it mean that our deal, you, the cunning demon, Belial, will never be completed? Hey, you have been with me for so long, do you still need me to explain such basic things to you? Belial is now determined to take advantage of a little more and then run away, so he doesn't waste time and energy to play cat and mouse with Austin, nor is he in the mood to continue to play with him. He just curled his lips impatiently. If there is something in the transaction that is logically impossible to complete, then of course this content will be directly invalid. Do you really think there is such a good thing as I promise to fulfill your one wish, but your wish is that I fulfill countless wishes? That kind of thing is naturally not true. Even if it is added to the transaction, it is naturally non-existent. Just give up, it's impossible. Okay. Okay. Okay, Austin's eyes burst into blood red. In this case, then I will do it myself. As he spoke, Austin, who was almost out of breath under the pressure of Belial, immediately stood up. At the same time, his body gradually grew. The explosively thickened muscles even stretched his paladin plate armor outward. In a moment, the full body plate armor that originally fit Austin perfectly turned into a pile of rags and withered fragments. He threw away the iris shield in his hand, raised the cross sword that could cut through iron like mud with both hands, and even grew the sword to the size of a door panel. How is it possible? How can you have this level of power? Belial was dumbfounded. You guy, you didn't intercept all the abilities that should be given to others and gave them to yourself. No wonder your idiot subordinates are so vulnerable. But, this is all my power. If you have the ability to pluck feathers from the passing geese, don't blame me for cutting off the firewood from the bottom of the pot. As he said this, Belial stretched out a pair of arms and pointed at Austin, who had expanded to more than 3 meters high and was still growing, wanting to take back all the magic power he had given. However, after several times in the air, there was no trace of magic power dissipated. Austin was not affected at all and continued to grow higher and higher. He even held up the huge door-like sword, with the tip of the sword pointing at the shadow of the demon god Belial behind Capricorn, and it was slightly free, as if it was also vaguely pointing at Ruger, who was helping Sarah behind Belial. Are you ready? He groaned. You owe me dignity, I will come to take it myself. And those who have bullied me, today is your last day. Before he finished speaking, Austin, a muscular man who had become not much smaller than the original poisonous Andariel, rushed towards Belial at a speed that was completely unbelievable for his size. He raised the huge sword in his hand high, and at the same time as he rushed to Belial, the huge sword like a door-like sword also fell from the air with great momentum. No one has any doubt that if the sword hits the ground, it will definitely create a huge underground crack. If it hits any Nephilim, even Austin himself, it will probably be cut in half. However, if this sword hits a demon god, the situation is not sure. At least, this is what Ruger, who is watching the show, thinks. Belial himself obviously doesn't think so. He really didn't expect that Austin, who is almost half the size of a hill, can be so fast. It's too late to dodge now. Even if he dodges by force, he will be forced to make a fool of himself by being slow. Rather than passively dodging and falling into a trap where he has to continue dodging, Belial thinks it's better to hit him head-on. Yes, his sudden increase in strength is indeed beyond his expectations. That's right, he thought it was the magic power he gave, but now he can't take it back. There is 100% problem here. But, what can I do? Austin is still just a mortal, far from being comparable to the ancient Nephilim who can truly stand shoulder to shoulder with angels and demons. And I am one of the 7 devil kings of hell. Even through expanding the territory, I have been promoted to the level of the 3 giants. Even if the soul here is only about 1/3 of the original body. But the difference in essence can still make the gap in strength like a natural chasm. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi. Chapter 435. What if the attack of a mere mortal is so powerful? Can it really hurt me, a demon god? Just a mortal? Google search reading. What? I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Just now, Luger attacked Belial with his mortal body, didn't he? Even caused him a lot of trouble? This thing did happen. But, in Belial's eyes, the logic is not like this. For other people, such as Rog, if they can see Belial, they may really think that Luger used his mortal power to hit the demon god and forced him to dodge defense. But, they can't see it. Those who can see Belial, including Luger, don't think so. At that time, Luger attacked Belial with a shrapnel bullet that used magic gems as shotgun pellets. The magic of the shrapnel made of magic gems can hurt the phantom of the demon god because Ruger borrowed the original power of Tia and Sarah. It can be said that his shrapnel is equivalent to gathering and sealing the attacks from the same level of demon gods or demon kings, and then releasing them at the right time. In essence, it is still another demon king who forced the phantom of the demon god Belial to defend. If there is no system, if Sarah Tia is not Ruger's closest ally recognized by the system, the magic shrapnel he made will not have this ability. Because of this, Belial is not actually much panic about the current attack of the giant Austin. Yes, Austin should also have some of the power essence of the demon king like Ruger. His attack should theoretically hurt Belial. But, that is Belial's own demon king essence. His essence hurts himself, just like the left hand hitting the right hand. It hurts, but there will not be much actual damage. Therefore, the shadow of Belial behind the Iron Man Capricorn just raised his 2 giant hands again, and in a standard bare-handed white blade posture, he easily clamped the door panel giant sword in Austin's hand that was cut from mid-air. Haha, with your little strength, what dignity do you have? Belial sneered and said disdainfully, ants, after all, are ants. Swish. Belial had just finished speaking and was about to use the giant sword as a carrier to absorb Austin's soul, but he didn't expect that his huge muscular body suddenly burst like a balloon that was blown up. At the same time, a pair of spiral tentacles made of skeleton material directly tore open Austin's chest, rushed out from inside, and instantly entangled the neck of the shadow of Belial, strangling back all his words. A moment later, as Austin's flesh and blood shell exploded and shattered, scattered, a new figure gradually appeared at the original place. There was a skull with two towering goat horns. Only the upper half of the body was half floating, with no skin and more than half of the muscles missing. It looked like a skeleton with its general structure missing. Its thoracic spine was constantly extending, almost 2 or 3 times longer, like the tail of some reptiles, such as dragons. But it had no pelvis, let alone legs, as if the extended spine was its lower body. And there were 2 pairs of forelimbs. One pair of human-like forearms, and another pair of spiral bone tentacles that strangled the throat of the phantom of Belial. The overall shape was surprisingly similar to Belial. But Belial's style focused on beetles, while this new monster was more like a skeleton. "It's you, you're still alive," Belial, whose throat was strangled, spoke out the real names of the beings in front of him bit by bit: Mo, Fe, Si, Tu. "He, I am eternal, brother," the huge skull grinned, "have you forgotten? Hatred will always survive. What? Do you think I died in the battle of the world stone shattering? Is this why you dare to occupy my territory in the burning hell and want to go further and become one of the 3 demons? My brother, my disciple, I am very disappointed in you. You don't deserve your cunning nature, so just be the king of lies who can only hide behind and fan the flames." Ruger immediately said in his heart, "Let's not talk about the king, let's be civilized. However, let's forget it this time. That Belial really doesn't deserve any higher title, let him be a king." One of the real 3 giants of hell suddenly appeared at this time. Ruger said that he was not panicked at all, that was a lie. But, in fact, when he found that there were not only Andariel and Diablo in this area, but also the not-so-presentable Belial, Ruger had already begun to speculate whether there would be more demon kings here. After thinking about it, Baal, the destroyer demon, should be the one who was most seriously injured in the world stone-shattering war. After all, he was holding a complete world stone and withstood the joint attack of the archangels. He, at least 90% likely, was really beaten back to the Chaos realm to be resurrected. So, he will hardly appear here. The second person who will hardly appear is Asmodan. According to intelligence from all sides, during the World Stone-Shattering War, this person should have been commanding the Burning Hell Demon Legion to fight against the Supreme Angel Legion at the edge of the Chaos realm. He is happy to command large troops in battle, and has little interest in sneaking behind enemy lines and conducting special attacks by small teams. Moreover, if he had not been stationed in the Burning Hell, Belial would not have worried about his lair being attacked by the High Heaven, and he would not have been in the mood to come to this area to play house. 2 demon kings who rarely appear, plus 3 demon kings who have already appeared. Among the 7 demon kings of the Burning Hell, only the hateful demon Mephisto and the suffering demon Duriel are left. At this time, the benefits of Sarah being the reincarnation of Andariel have emerged. According to Sarah's confession, among the 7 demon kings, she and Duriel are twins. Although the 7 demon kings are all transformed from the ultimate evil dragon Tathamet, they are the 7 heads of the evil dragon, and they are all siblings from the same mother. But no matter the secrets in history, such as the 3 demons being exiled to the world of sanctuary by the 4 demon kings, or the current scene of brotherly friendship and respect, it shows that the so-called brotherhood of the 7 demon kings is almost non-existent. The relationship between Andariel and Duriel should not be very good. But there are always some exceptions. As the Queen of Pain, Andariel's body looks like a queen holding a whip in a special XP cellar. Use pain to give pleasure to some perverts. That's why Sarah's current transformation from demon to god is possible. This matter is not known to everyone, but those who have seen Andariel's body can more or less guess it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi Ji. Chapter 436. After all, that image is too easy to guess. But what the world doesn't know is that Duriel, as the other half of the twins, actually has a special fetish. He is known as the Little Prince of Suffering. He not only likes to torture others physically, but he also likes the idea of being tortured physically. That's right, he doesn't really care who the tortured body belongs to. It's his own, it doesn't matter. So, yes, this pair of twins are actually two sadists and one sadist. Anduriel is sadist, but the Little Prince of Suffering Duriel is both sadist and sadist. So, although the relationship between the two is not that good, when the two appear at the same time, Duriel often becomes a follower. In fact, he is mostly busy enjoying his sister's love and gave up the right to take charge. Because of this, Ruger is not too worried that this guy will suddenly appear. Even though Sarah told him many times not to think too highly of things, he still felt that if Duriel suddenly appeared in the area near the rogue camp, he would most likely help him and his friends. After talking about the 7 Demon Kings, yes, what Ruger was most worried about was that the hateful Demon King suddenly appeared out of nowhere. But that was not all he was most worried about. Because this small area had gathered too many Demon Kings of Hell, and it could be said that the balance had been greatly lost. It was hard to guarantee that a certain archangel would suddenly pop out and point at Ruger or Tia's nose and say that he would kill the demons with force for the peace of the universe. As an ally of the reincarnation of the demon god, Ruger could still chat with the Demon King now, but he would be at a loss when he met the angel. But now that Mephisto had suddenly appeared for some reason, Ruger's originally hanging heart fell. What? Why did he think that Mephisto would not attack him or Sarah? Well, he didn't think so. He did not think Mephisto was an ally. How to say this? It's still the same metaphor. When someone is waving his fist in front of you, and when he punches you, you are actually more afraid and terrified in the former state. Because you don't know whether he will really hit you, and you have a glimmer of luck, but you are also worried about when he will hit you and how hard he will hit you. The unknown is more terrifying. But after this punch, even if it is really strong, it may even knock you out. But, the unknown becomes known, and many things are clear in mind, so there is no panic. Ruger's mood is similar now. Anyway, the guy who is most likely to appear and the most disadvantageous to his side finally appeared. Then, there is nothing to be afraid of. What's more, among the remaining unknowns, the worst result is that several more enemies at the level of the 5 archangels will appear. But, now that Mephisto has appeared, whether the enemies at the level of the 5 archangels appear in the end or not, it seems that the benefits outweigh the disadvantages. Why? When the archangel appears, will they first attack Ruger, a mortal who is not even a Nephilim and has no demon bloodline, when they see the great god Mephisto? Does this count as more benefits than disadvantages? If they don't appear, everyone can barely be considered as members of the Hell forces. They can fight and redistribute the benefits, and that's it. They are still comrades in arms against the Hell forces, so there is no need to make things too extreme. Isn't this also beneficial? So, Ruger is like this now. It can be said to be psychological comfort or spiritual victory. In short, he has been afraid and panicked. Now he is calm and peaceful. Well, why do I feel like I am waiting for death? Not really, not really. When Ruger knew his destiny, the master and apprentice had almost finished greeting each other. You, when? Belial, the former disciple, asked reluctantly with one breath. When did I come to this world? When did I find you here? When did I use your chosen one to make a backup body for myself? Mephisto smiled rather arrogantly. Belair, my disciple, my brother, you are still too young after all. You are using my sect, don't I know? I see you have learned how to split the soul and infuse it into humans or other messy things as your body in this world. Then, I will teach you another trick. You can use this method more often and divide it into smaller parts. For example, your current 1/3 can be split into 3,000, 30,000, or even more small souls. You must ask, how can I take care of it? Haha, why do you have to command them yourself? Make them into seeds and sprinkle them on the carriers that compound your Demon King's origin. As for the rest, let them touch and break through on their own. You have to understand that humans are very obsessed with the power of hatred and disgust. Once they have tasted it, they will continue to help you deepen this source of power. 3,000 seeds, even if only 30, or even 3 take root and sprout, and grow into a big tree, the part of your soul that you have lost will be replenished by the newly added source of power. It's simple, isn't it? But it's also very useful. By the way, let me tell you a little secret. In my playful little sect, there are quite a few who have the seed of hatred. So, do you understand now, when did I come here, when did I find you, or when did I enter your chosen body? The answers to these questions are all, a long, long time ago, ha 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 ha. Listening to Mephisto training his disciples in name, but in fact he was demonstrating to Sarah and others, Ruger was somewhat surprised. There is a saying that the real person in charge and leader among the 7 demon kings of hell is actually Mephisto, who looks the weakest of the 3 demons. This hateful demon who is always brushed by players in the original game and is nicknamed Model Worker is actually the real boss of hell? I'm afraid most players will find it incomprehensible. After all, compared with the other 2, he is really a little weak. But, that was in the original game. There is too little information available for reference on his combat power in the real world. But there is one thing that has been confirmed by many parties, and it can probably be used as a reference. That is, Belial, the king of lies, was once a disciple of Mephisto. It's just that the teacher-student relationship between the 2 focuses more on conspiracy, strategy, and calculation. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi. Chapter 437. Relatively speaking, combat ability should be quite secondary. However, it is unrealistic to say that the 2 have never compared combat abilities. Whether Belial can fight, well, everyone has just seen it. Although there are various conditions and restrictions, but anyway, the onlookers will have their own judgment on Belial's combat ability. Although it is said that the apprentice is not strong, it does not mean that the master must not be strong, but most normal people will still doubt it. In contrast to the suspicious quality of combat ability, the former mentor of the King of Lies has been recognized for his conspiracy. At least, after hearing his method of spreading the seeds of hatred, harvesting the origin for himself, and laying a dark chess backhand for himself, Ruger was quite amazed. He even had a vague feeling that his system was essentially a seed sown by a high-level god. However, the god who sowed the system as a seed must be much higher than the heaven, hell, angels, demons, etc. in this world. Didn't the system itself say that the system is not a fragment of the world stone? On the contrary, the world stone as a whole should be a very strong system. The world stone is called the Eye of Anu by the angels and demons of this world, and is considered to be the legacy left by the real creator god Anu. In this way, that Anu is more like a system? No, that Anu may be the traverser, the host of the power seed of the system. He is the one who can contribute to the seed sower far more than the ability, energy, and energy consumed in making the seeds, as Mephisto said. Then, doesn't it mean that the struggle between Anu and the evil side he separated from, and then the process of creating this entire universe, is the one who sowed the system as a seed, and is reaping his own fruits? Then, what kind of existence is it? However, thinking of this, Ruger no longer felt any fear. After all, the one who sowed the system in his mind like a seed, the higher his status and the stronger his strength, the safer he will be. The seeds of hatred sown by the hateful demon Mephisto in front of me have to grow to the level of Austin before they are qualified to be harvested by the demon. Then, I am afraid that I have to grow to the level of Anu, the creator god of this dimension, before I am qualified to be harvested by the sower behind the system. With my current strength, I am afraid that the sower would think it is a waste of time to look at me. Well, is this the reason why the system doesn't like to take care of me? Too weak, so I am not qualified? Hey, isn't that good? As long as I suppress my strength within a certain range, I won't be so weak that I can be killed by any enemy in seconds, and I won't be so strong that I will be treated like a pig, then I can enjoy the life of a traverser peacefully. Not bad. What's more, these are just Ruger's own guesses, not necessarily the truth. Even if some of them are true, the high-dimensional god the sower of the system is not necessarily a chaotic evil or orderly evil existence like Mephisto. What if people sow the system as seeds just to sow the universe? Look at Anu, didn't he just create a world? In this case, Ruger has no need to worry about this level of things. The so-called worrying about the sky is to worry about disasters that you are not qualified to deal with all day long. Why bother? In various senses, Ruger is an optimist. So, after being inspired by Mephisto's words to teach Belial a lesson, he quickly pulled his mind back from his endless thoughts. Look at Belial again. Not only was he strangled by the former mentor who suddenly appeared and couldn't move, but he was also taught a lesson in front of all the enemies, and his face was as ugly as a fried grasshopper. What? Why grasshopper? Because Belial looks like it? Okay, the lesson for you is almost over, then, just like before, leave the tuition fee. As he said that, Mephisto controlled the pair of bony spiral tentacles curled around Belial's neck and strangled it fiercely. Although the shadow of the demon god is not a physical body, and its physiological reaction should not be consistent with that of ordinary people, Belial's breath still weakened little by little, as if a human being was strangled by the neck. At this moment, Old Noisy, who ran down from the ground to escape the pursuit of the little pervert Gialia, finally jumped to Tia's side. Before Old Noisy had time to act coquettishly and ask for comfort from his master, Mephisto, who reshaped his body with the unfortunate Austin transformation skeleton, immediately turned his head and stared at him. Ha, ha, ha ha. So that's it, so that's it? Diabolo, my brother, so this is why you haven't appeared yet. Ha ha, actually, you were split into two halves and bound. Well, since you have seen it, then I will lend you a hand. I wish you a speedy recovery. As he said, Mephisto gathered a flash of light with his hands, but was stabbed hard by the tailbone of his lower body, and a lightning-like laser shot straight at Old Noisy. The lightning laser beam directly penetrated the body of the Old Noisy man without substance, and then deflected at an angle like light passing through a prism, and shot directly into Tia's forehead. Tia was helping Sarah charge with Ruger, and even took off the Iron Man helmet, not to mention the mask. She was instantly hit on the forehead by the deflected lightning laser beam, and the whole person seemed to have lost her soul, and she stood there in a daze. The next moment, a breath mixed with crazy sulfur, fierce lava, and violent flames rushed out from Tia like a volcanic eruption. Her surroundings instantly turned into a sea of fire. No, it was a burning hell. The strong breath of hell lava forced Sarah to temporarily avoid the sharp edge, and the explosive and poisonous Andariel's body jumped far away. When she ran far enough to feel safe, she looked back and found that Ruger, who was much less resistant to fire and lava than herself, was still there, with worried eyes but firm to accompany Tia. This. At that moment, Sarah felt that her heart seemed to stop suddenly. She seemed to understand why both Tia and herself would subconsciously trust and even rely on that man. He would not give up. At least, he won't give up on us. No, I will never give up. At the same time, Ruger also said to the system in his heart. The reason for Tia's change is obvious. She entered a special state after being hit by some magic of that bastard Mephisto. At the same time, the evil side of Diablo, Old Noisy, who was separated from Tia's soul by Mr. Max, also suffered the same thing. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi Ji. Chapter 438. Tia's soul and Lao Noisy soul were all activated to a certain special state by Mephisto. The two merge into each other. The consequences of this are obvious. Tia, Diavolo is about to become the perfect form. Perhaps, it would not be a bad idea to call her Tiapolo. I know, you must have a way, right? Lugger asked the system. At the same time, as the hell lava on Tia became stronger and stronger, Lugger's homemade Tejaman armor also began to show signs of melting. After all, his armor had already left countless hidden wounds when it dealt with the poisonous Andariel poison cloud. At this time, the corrosive poisonous gas is no longer there, but the more dangerous and blazing hell lava is coming. The fate of that armor can be imagined. Fortunately, the material of Tejaman armor is energy substance armor. After melting, it tends to turn into energy and escape, instead of melting into molten iron like metal and flowing downward under the influence of gravity. At this time, Lugger's body is afraid that it's about to be burned twice by the molten iron. However, without high-temperature molten iron flowing down the gap and burning his flesh, the original high temperature alone was enough to hurt him. If he hadn't been continuously strengthening his physical attributes recently, and even kept countless potions ready as supplements, as first aid treatments, he might have been burned by the lava by now. Even so, while he was talking to the system, the sea of consciousness became unbearably hot due to the high temperature outside. The incarnation of himself in his mind made him sweat uncontrollably. Is it necessary? The system listened to his question and said with a somewhat admonishing tone, she is not irreplaceable. There are infinite possibilities for the host. No, she is irreplaceable, Ruger said decisively, while his eyes were sharply staring at the system panel in the sea of consciousness. Even though he was sweating profusely at this time, the sweat on his head even flowed down his bangs. However, there was no trace of the firmness in those eyes at all. I don't want to hear this kind of words from you again, no matter how big your background is or how great your essence is. Okay, in the dark, the system seemed to sigh secretly, but when it came back to consciousness, the voice was much clearer and louder. Now that the host has made up his mind, there is a method you can try. What? Enter that person's sea of consciousness and help her complete soul fusion. Help her? Help her transform back into Diavolo. What? The host can't accept her turning into an ugly demon. You know that's not what I meant. Lugger's eyes became sharp again. Okay. The host needs to understand that in essence, he has always been Diavolo and has never changed. Rather than saying that Diavolo is resurrecting with the help of her body, it is better to say that she is awakening the memory of Diavolo in her previous life. Well, there's still power. This process is difficult to stop. Even if it is stopped, it is just equivalent to raising a child in a small box and forcibly preventing her from growing up. In comparison, this method actually hurts her more. But, since the host is determined not to give up on her, then it is better to help her on her journey of growth. Help her complete soul fusion and help her complete reincarnation. Also help her build a brand new future that belongs to her and also belongs to you, the host. A new future that belongs to us. Ruger chewed on these words, and soon looked at the system panel again. Okay, what should I do? How can I enter Tia's sea of consciousness? It's simple. The host has mastered the ability to activate the mind, and the prerequisites for controlling the self-awareness body to enter the sea of consciousness of other beings have been met. It is equivalent to the fact that the host has learned to swim and is not afraid of falling into the sea and drowning. The rest is how to enter the sea of consciousness, that is, how to let yourself go into the sea. Well, the host needs to provide some points. The system was explaining that the sulfur smoke near Tia gradually dissipated, revealing Tia inside who was bathing in the lava. At the same time, it also revealed Lugger, who had more than half of the armor next to him burned out. This time, not only Sarah, who was closer, but also Mephisto, who was still refusing to listen to Belial, also saw Ruger's embarrassed but determined look. Huh? Ridiculous, Mephisto looked at Lugger with disgust. Sad and insignificant human being, what else do you think you can do? As a hating demon, the thing he hates most, besides angels, is probably the opposite of hating. That is, love, this kind of thing. It is rumored that after the demon Lilith, Kalia's grandmother, Rathma's mother, and Mephisto's daughter, betrayed the burning hell and used the stolen world stone to create the world of sanctuary with the former archangel Ares, Mephisto he didn't do anything cruel to his daughter. However, he really beat Ares to death every time he caught him. Even after the War of Original Sin, it was said that Mephisto made a deal with the Supreme Heaven, in which he would no longer covet the world of sanctuary in exchange for the Supreme Heaven teaching him how to deal with Ares, who was also a traitor. The angel, who was originally a handsome boy, was tortured by his father-in-law and turned into a miserable person. It can be seen that Mephisto, the hateful demon god, is very cruel in his heart. Moreover, his hatred is particularly complicated, with various clues intertwined, making it impossible to distinguish. Instinctual hatred? Hatred of revenge for stealing a girl? Hatred of jealousy? Because the other person is too handsome? Or, hatred for the carrier of love? The kind that shouts all lovers should die. This matter may never have the truth. But one thing is certain, he really wants to kill Ruger. So, he stretched out a finger, as if to crush an ant, and slowly pointed at Ruger. At the same time, his lower body rolled out a cloud of smoke that looked like a skull in the white smoke. This thing slid along Mephisto's tail spine to his arm, and then rushed from there to his outstretched fingertips, and finally turned into a magic missile like a demon skull, rushing towards Ruger's head. It can be imagined that if an ordinary person is hit by this evil spirit missile, there is probably only one fate, that is, the soul is devoured by the evil spirit, and the body becomes a walking corpse, a skeleton, or a zombie-like monster. However, when the system saw Mephisto shooting this thing towards Lugger, which was explaining the price of the ticket to Lugger, it was slightly startled. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi. Chapter 439. Okay, someone will help me get the boat ticket, so I wish the host all the best. What? Ruger was still wondering, and turned his head to look at the evil spirit missile flying at high speed. Just as he was about to dodge, he found that he had lost control of his body. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow smoke G. The next second, his forehead was hit hard by that thing. At that moment, he was like a car that was hit by a heavy truck or even a high-speed train at high speed. The world was upside down, and it was spinning in the air. That feeling was like riding a roller coaster, but the speed was accelerated by hundreds of times. The impact of kinetic energy and the dizziness of flying were like a hydraulic hammer crushing his last consciousness. But he still gritted his teeth and insisted, forcing himself to stay awake. Because only in this way can he not get lost in the sea of consciousness of others, and remember who he is, where he is, and what he wants to do. He was holding on here, and the two demon kings outside were also stunned. In Mephisto's eyes, his evil spirit missile had clearly hit his brain, and it should be able to devour his soul in an instant. However, before he could be proud, the evil spirit that flew into his mind seemed to hit something inside, deflected at an angle, and flew out of his mind again. Although the evil spirit missile was fast, in the eyes of Mephisto and Sarah, they could clearly see that its top was pushing a glass bubble-like structure and continued to rush forward. The little man in the glass bubble was clearly a little Ruger. Looking more carefully, the missile had completely submerged in another body. There, it was Tia who was wrapped in the magma of hell. Tisk, do you think this will make any difference? Naive, Mephisto's face was filled with disgust, but then he snorted and laughed. Well, let's take your soul as an appetizer to celebrate his return. On the other side, Ruger endured the dizziness of flying in the air and the impact of dozens of G acceleration. His eyes blurred and he finally arrived at a new, stable world. Soon, his own rotation gradually stopped, and the whole person fell on this strange ground. Here, lava is all over the ground, flames are soaring into the sky, and it looks like a burning hell. But this place doesn't look like a real burning hell. Because after just 2 glances at Ruger, he found that the overall structure here is more like the medieval town he is familiar with. Rogue Town. Yes, it's like the stones of Rogue Town have all been replaced with black volcanic rocks, and the wood has been replaced with hard and black coke. The river water source has all turned into magma. The grass on the ground is obsidian mixed with magma. The pedestrians on the road were all kinds of demons and monsters. Is this Tia's sea of consciousness? Ruger nodded slowly while checking it out, and after recovering a little from the dizziness before, he staggered in a certain direction. There was a crater. But, no matter its appearance or its location, it reminded Ruger of that familiar place, Tia's home in Rogue Town, the alchemy workshop of the alchemist Catala. As he walked longer and longer on the fire-lit obsidian floor, Ruger's spiritual platform finally gradually recovered. Although he had been spinning in the air and the pictures in front of him were rotating at high speed, after calming down, he was finally able to understand what happened before through memory recall. He, or his soul, actually flew here on a missile. So, the process of buying a ticket by spending points as the system said was omitted. Since you are riding a free tailwind bomb, don't be dissatisfied with the poor comfort. Soon, he walked along the small road in the volcanic lava version of Rogue Town and came to the gate of the alchemy workshop. However, the originally solid wooden door turned into a burning flame doorframe. Since it is a door, this flame should not be harmless, right? As he was muttering, a group of skinny demon creatures with extremely distorted bodies and faces rushed over from the other side of the road. After they yelled and cursed at the gate for a while, they found that there was no voice inside to answer, so they rushed towards the flame door together, trying to force their way in. Although, the flame door only has a door frame that is solid, strictly speaking, it seems to have been broken. However, the fact proves that since the local homeowner dared to use a fuel door frame and burn it with flames as a door, it proves that this door has the ability to prevent outsiders from entering the house. As soon as those extremely abstract demons rushed into the flames of the flame gate, their entire bodies burned like gasoline that had seen an open flame. The demon howled in pain and wanted to retreat, but the next demon behind it had already rushed over, not only pressing it into the flames, but also being ignited by the flames. At the same time, the previous demon, whose entire body was burning, was unable to rush through the gate, but turned into corpse oil halfway through, and was absorbed by the door frame and turned into fuel. Soon, the remaining demons also discovered this, and immediately gave up the plan to attack from the gate. Without even looking at their companions who were still crying in the firelight, they pushed and shoved each other around the entire volcano house. However, before they could find the next way to attack, the crater on the roof of the volcano house, which was like a chimney, erupted directly. Countless magmas spewed out from it, like a sprinkler on the grass, spraying evenly and densely on all the roads around the house. The demons surrounding the house were ignited into large fireballs by the magma in the blink of an eye, and burned out in 2 or 3 times, turning into shiny magma texture lines on the surrounding obsidian road surface. Although Ruger was prepared and immediately retreated when he saw that things were not going well, he was still hit by the splashing magma. But something wonderful happened. When the magma hit him, it was like an ordinary bullet hitting a ghost, directly passing through his body, as if he didn't exist at all. Ruger was stunned. Could it be that I am just a ghost here, without a physical body and cannot be seen? He said this as if he was talking to himself, or asking the system. But the system did not answer. Feeling the silence of the system, Ruger tried to call him a few more times, but there was no answer. Really? So this is what you mean by wishing me the best. This was the first time since crossing over that Ruger did not have the system's golden finger to back him up. It would be a lie to say that he was not a little panicked. But, after thinking about all those things because of Mephisto's hatred seed, he was relieved. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 440. Ruger could now leave the system in a special way, and he felt relieved. Perhaps, this was the taste of freedom. Moreover, he was still invulnerable here for the time being. After confirming that he would not be harmed by the lava erupting from the volcanic alchemy workshop, Ruger simply passed the last few demons that were still wailing in the flames and walked straight to the flame door. He stretched out his hand at the door and found that the flame door did not respond to him, so he simply walked in. The alchemy workshop was still the same as Ruger was familiar with. Although he did not stay in Tia's hometown for a long time and did not go there many times, he helped Tia build her new workshop in the second shelter from scratch. There, it was exactly the same as Tia's original home. Just like now. Of course, the original stone materials were all replaced with obsidian, and the furnace fire and other things were all replaced with the burning hell version of lava. In Ruger's memory, Tia's alchemy workshop has always been very deserted, with almost no customers coming. But here, there are all kinds of familiar people in Rogue Town dressed as demons. For example, Akara, Kasha, Sarah, Minerva and other people who have a good relationship with Tia. Their demonization is also simple, just like those enthusiasts who go to cosplay, with skin changes, faces demonized, horns on their heads, bat wings on their backs, and tails behind them. In short, people can tell at a glance that they are demons, but they can also see their human forms. Friends are more like people, and enemies are twisted monsters. Ruger nodded with some understanding. But after looking around, he didn't see Tia. There was only a middle-aged woman with black medium-length hair and simple clothes, lying on the bed in the inner room, telling some old jokes with Akara, Kasha and others sitting next to her. One day when I was a kid, I was in a bad mood for some reason. My dad asked me if I could get a few gold coins so I could go to the market and buy something to cheer myself up. When I heard that there was such a good thing, I immediately ran to him with a smile on my face, opened my arms and waited for him to take out gold coins from his precious purse. But he said, "You are already happy, so you don't need to spend my gold coins." After that, everyone around laughed with her. The black-haired woman also showed her vampire fangs that seemed to be able to suck people's hearts. This middle-aged woman who looks most like a human is still in the form of a demon. After a few laughs, the black-haired vampire woman couldn't catch up with her breath and started coughing in a hurry. This attracted the younger generation such as Minerva and Sarah to come over and pat her on the back while handing her water, which was actually blood, to help her relieve her anger. After a long commotion, the goat-horned demon who looked like Akara forced a smile and said to the black-haired vampire woman, "Katara, your father will cry when he hears you make up stories about Kid. He is stingy with everyone except you." "Haha, I know the latter part." Katara, who looked like a black-haired vampire, smiled, "but you are wrong about the former part. Every time my father hears me tell this joke to others, he will just laugh happily, but he won't cry. Because every time I tell this joke, there will be kind people who give me something, ha ha ha, and I save a meal money. How can he not laugh?" "Hey, you two profiteers, you even have to calculate such things," Kasha behind Akara sighed angrily, and then he didn't know what he thought of, and laughed out loud again. "Hey," Katara laughed again, but sighed and said, "In the future, it's Tia's turn to tell this joke. It's a pity that her acting skills can't fool anyone." "That's because you spoil her too much." Akira frowned, "You never say no to her." "Ha, you say it as if you would say something different to her." Katara curled his lips, "Everyone here is responsible for her becoming what she is now. Hey, after I die, I wonder how long she can keep my ancestral workshop going. I'm afraid it will go bankrupt in a few days, right?" "What the hell?" The more Ruger listened, the more he felt something was wrong. He thought that everything was pretty good at the beginning, although Katara seemed to be entrusting her to chat with friends and arrange the funeral affairs before she died. But in general, the faint sadness is still filled with the warmth of family affection. But why, when Tia is mentioned, the direction here immediately takes a sharp turn for the worse? Akira, Katala, and everyone else seemed to be full of doubts and distrust about Tia's future, as if she would mess everything up. This is neither normal nor true. Why is this? While thinking, Ruger only felt a figure flash by near the back door of the workshop. He turned his head and looked over, but before he could see the man's appearance, the man disappeared. At the same time, the room returned to the original warmth mixed with a few traces of sadness from the previous chat atmosphere full of suspicion and distrust. What's going on? Could it be some kind of observer effect? Because it was observed by someone, this was originally just a memory in Tia's subconscious mind, but it collapsed into another appearance. In fact, it was just the observer's own fear. Well, in that case, could that figure be Tia? Thinking so, Ruger simply chased after the figure and walked out from the back door. Coming out from the back door of the real alchemy workshop, it was actually a back street corridor in the core business district of Rogue Town. Crossing the corridor was the home of Anya and her adoptive mother next door. But after Ruger followed the figure out, he found himself back in the second shelter. However, it was also a lava version. It can be called the second shelter, but not all of them are the same. For example, the furnishings in the two-person courtyard home between Ruger's car repair shop and Tia's alchemy workshop are completely different from the actual ones. It is a courtyard with a strong Tristram style that Ruger has never seen before. Ruger walked out of the back door of the alchemy workshop and directly entered this courtyard with a bit of wizard scholar style and a bit of lost one style. As a result, he happened to see a family of 3 chatting and resting in the backyard. It was said to be a family of 3, but in fact it was a young couple pulling a cradle baby carriage. Even though the thing was also made into a lava hell, Ruger still recognized it at a glance. It was simply a common baby stroller in the later technological era. However, it was not exactly the same. It looked like it was made by hand. The person who made it should have seen a baby stroller, but there were some problems in the control of the materials.